It was a cold and quiet evening in the small town of Crestwood. The streets were empty, save for the occasional flicker of streetlights casting long, eerie shadows on the damp pavement. Officer Jack Daniels, a seasoned police officer with over 15 years of service, was on his usual patrol. Crestwood was no stranger to bizarre tales, but Jack had always dismissed them as small-town gossip. Tonight, however, something felt different, the kind of different that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Jack's radio crackled to life, breaking the silence. "Unit 37, we've got a report of unusual activity near the old Fletcher warehouse." "Check it out," came the dispatcher's voice. The Fletcher warehouse had been abandoned for decades, a looming relic of Crestwood's industrial past. Stories of ghostly apparitions and strange noises were common, but they never amounted to anything. Jack sighed, adjusted his cap, and steered his patrol car toward the warehouse. As he approached, the air seemed heavier, almost oppressive. The warehouse loomed like a dark monolith against the backdrop of the moonlit sky. The windows were shattered, and the entrance was barricaded with rusty chains and a faded "no trespassing" sign. Jack parked his car, radioed in his location, and stepped out, flashlight in hand. The silence was unnerving. Not even the chirp of crickets broke the stillness. Jack shone his flashlight around the perimeter, finding nothing but weeds and discarded debris. Just as he was about to call it in as another prank, he heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from inside the warehouse. "Anyone in there?" Jack called out, his voice steady but loud enough to echo through the night. No response. The tapping continued, now accompanied by what sounded like whispered voices. Jack's instincts kicked in. Drawing his service weapon, he approached the entrance. The chains on the door were loosely fastened, as if someone had recently tampered with them. He pushed the door open, its rusted hinges groaning in protest, and stepped inside. The warehouse smelled of mildew and decay. Dust danced in the beam of his flashlight as he scanned the vast, empty space. The tapping was louder now, coming from deeper within. The whispers, indistinct but persistent, seemed to be all around him. "This is Officer Daniels with Crestwood PD. If anyone's here, show yourself," he commanded, his voice firm. The tapping abruptly stopped, replaced by an unnatural silence. Then, out of nowhere, a metallic clang echoed from the far end of the warehouse. Jack turned sharply, his flashlight catching the briefest glimpse of movement, a shadow darting out of view. Adrenaline surged through him. He moved cautiously, his footsteps echoing against the concrete floor. "Stay where you are," he ordered. His voice carried authority, but there was an undercurrent of unease he couldn't suppress. As he approached the source of the noise, Jack noticed something odd on the floor, a trail of footprints, wet and muddy, leading further into the building. The whispers returned, louder this time, overlapping and unintelligible, as if multiple voices were speaking at once. He followed the footprints to a staircase leading down to the basement. The air grew colder with each step he descended, the faint smell of rot becoming stronger. His flashlight flickered briefly, sending a jolt of fear through him, but he pressed on. At the bottom of the stairs was a large, iron door slightly ajar. Beyond it, a dim light flickered. Jack pushed the door open cautiously and stepped inside. What he saw made his stomach drop. The room was filled with strange symbols scrawled on the walls, written in what looked like dried blood. In the center of the room was a large, circular table surrounded by 6 chairs. On the table lay an open book, its pages filled with strange, cryptic text. Around it were candles, their flames sputtering despite the still air. And then he saw it, a figure standing in the corner, its back turned to him. The figure was tall, unnaturally thin, and dressed in tattered clothing. Jack aimed his flashlight and weapon at it. "Turn around, slowly," he commanded. The figure didn't move. Instead, the whispers grew louder, almost deafening. Jack stepped closer, his grip tightening on his weapon. "I said turn around," he shouted. Suddenly, the figure moved, but not in a way Jack could comprehend. It turned in a series of jerky, unnatural motions, as if its joints were bending in the wrong direction. When it finally faced him, Jack froze. Its face was void of features, a smooth, pale surface where eyes, a nose, and a mouth should have been. Before Jack could react, the room plunged into darkness. His flashlight went dead, and the whispers became a cacophony of screams. He felt something cold and sharp graze his neck, followed by a searing pain. He swung his weapon wildly, firing into the darkness, but the screams only grew louder. When the lights flickered back on, the room was empty. The table, the symbols, the figure, all gone. Jack was on the floor, his weapon several feet away. His neck throbbed with pain, and when he touched it, his fingers came away wet with blood. Disoriented and terrified, he scrambled to his feet and stumbled out of the basement. The warehouse was silent again, but the oppressive feeling lingered. Jack made it back to his patrol car and radioed for backup, his voice shaking. When his colleagues arrived, they found nothing. The warehouse was empty, and there was no evidence of what Jack had encountered. The only thing they found was his flashlight, its lens shattered, lying near the entrance. Jack never returned to duty after that night. He resigned a week later, refusing to speak about what had happened. The official report labeled it as a case of stress-induced hallucination, but those who knew Jack didn't buy it. He was one of the most level-headed officers on the force. Rumors spread through Crestwood about what he might have seen. Some said it was a ghost, others a demon, and some believed it was something far worse, something that defied explanation. To this day, the Fletcher warehouse remains abandoned. Locals avoid it, and those brave enough to approach it at night swear they can still hear the whispers. As for Officer Jack Daniels, he vanished from Crestwood entirely. No one knows where he went or what became of him. Some say he's trying to forget, while others believe he's still searching for answers. So, the next time you hear a strange noise in the dead of night or feel like someone's watching you, remember this story. Sometimes, the things we can't explain are the ones that stay with us the longest. And if you're still curious, make sure to subscribe to Bedtime Horror Stories for more chilling tales that will keep you up at night. Because who knows? The next story might just be about you.